What's up, everybody? Gideon here. Marvel Strike Force Conversation podcast. We haven't done it in a while. We're trying to get back to it. We're trying to do it. So here we are, back again, making it happen. Want to talk about a couple really important things about the game right now. For example, as the question says, will Professor X save the game? Now, we do have a special guest. I don't know if you can see him in the picture. We got Chewy the dog down here. We got Chewy the dog. He's doing his thing. So I don't know, man. He might have something to say about the topic. I got another little tiny doggy. She also might have something to say about the topic, but we're running it live, man. So we can't. If they start making noise, ain't nothing I can do about it. If they start making noise, man. But really, let's go ahead and get into the topic of discussion today. Will Professor X save the game? And the easy answer for anyone who's a mature person is no. Now, why do we say that? Because that's not how the real world works. That's not how life works. You don't just say, well, if this thing happens, everything's fixed. That's not real. That doesn't happen. Well, perhaps some of you have had this happen, right? We got an illustration here. Playground hobby is what we're calling it. I have an illustration here. So when we were growing up, maybe you had the same thing happen. We were growing up. What do you want to do? You want to play with other kids, usually. Right? We had a game system. I had a Nintendo, but I mean, it's not like we're filthy rich. And even if we were, it doesn't matter. You want to do stuff with other people, with other kids, right? So what do? Well, we got a park not far away from where we live. Play some basketball there. There's a soccer field there. Baseball. Do all of it, right? Plenty of green, open space. You do all of it. So we go. The problem always was the older kids. Now, what do we mean by that? See, the older kids, the people that we supposedly look up to, the cool kids, right? They don't respect the playground. They don't respect the playground. So what do? They're smashing bottles on the court. They're smoking, they're drinking. They might be involved in drugs or something of that nature. And they just leave all that stuff, right? They spray paint things. They leave their trash. They leave their spent prophylactics hanging around on the court. That's what they do, right? So if you want to use it as a young guy coming up, if you want to use the court, if you want to play on the field, if you want to be on the ball diamond, we had to learn that we're going to have to clean that up first. It isn't our fault. It's nothing that we did. It's the people that came before. And because they don't respect the court, they don't respect the field. See, they're even laughing. They know that we're coming. So they urinate on stuff, things like that. They think it's funny. They don't have any respect for it. And we look up to them because we say, well, those are the cool kids, even though they're not. So if we want to use the court, what do we had to do? We had to bring a shovel. We had to bring a broom. We had to bring a garbage bag, and we had to clean it first before we could use it. Now, you could ask the city. You could blame somebody. You could blame the city, but they're not coming out every day to clean up the court, to clean up the field. If you wanted to play, that's what we had to do, man. We had to bring our own stuff. We had to clean it first so that we could play. And these guys are older than us, right? We're young. These guys are older than we are. They should be setting a proper example, but they weren't. They thought it was funny. To them, they were having fun, making other people's life miserable. So what does that have to do with Marvel Strike Force? Because if it's a hobby, if it's something that you like, if you want it to be better, fact of the matter is, going to have to do something about that. And what do we mean? Well, as always, you got to let your voice be heard. So I try to pub the player voice as much as I possibly can. If you guys don't know what the player voice is, I got the link in the description to their Discord. They're essentially a group of people that have, right, they get to meet with Scopely every couple weeks. So I'm on the Envoy program, right? I'm an Envoy, so I get to meet with Scopely from time to time. They tell me about stuff that's happening, stuff that's getting ready to come to the game. But the player voice, they have more of a long-range goal, a long-range vision, right? Scopely saying, hey, this is what we're planning on doing in the next month, 2 months, 6 months, yada, yada. And you have people of all different areas of the game. So you have your Krakens, you have your whales, you have your medium spenders, you got your light spenders, you got people that don't, they're free to play. And they make sure that there's people from all those categories there. All right? They make sure there's people from all those categories there, and they help weigh in on how things are coming down the pipe. It's important. It's important. Links in the description. So if you check their Discord out, ask questions, things like that. So if you want change to come to the game, that's a great place to start. It's the main Marvel Strike Force Discord, the Player Voice Discord. You can reach out to any of your local envoys, myself, but just keep conversation going. If you want something to change, you're going to have to do something about that. And people might say, well, it's not my fault. I'm not doing anything. They got to fix their game. Well, it's easy to say that. It's super easy to say that. But in real life, anybody who's a grown man, a grown woman knows if you want something to happen, you got to make it happen. You can whine and cry and complain about it all you want. You want something to change, you got to do something about it. And there's work involved. You don't have to do a ton of work. Over on the Player Voice, they do little polls every day. It's just a Discord poll. Maybe not every day, but for right now, for the past couple of days with Battle World, they just said, hey, how was the experience? You liked it? You didn't? I liked it better the old way. And you just click one. It's just right. It's nothing weird. They're not collecting information or nothing like that. It's just a Discord poll. You just click a button. Helps the game out. They can take that information then to Scopely and have conversation. And when you have it from different levels like that, hey, this is what we experienced as a mid spender. This is what we experienced as a crack. And hey, man, I'm free to play. This is what's happening to me. When you can get all those pieces of the game, it helps to make an informed decision. And that's what you want. You want a decision to be made that's best for the community as a whole, because sometimes things get mixed up and misconstrued. People say, well, the community's feeling this way. Well, is it the community or is this the spenders that feel this way? People say, well, the community's feeling this way. Well, is this the community or are we just talking about the free to play? Right? We need all pieces of the puzzle and you need different people to weigh in. Now, I wanted to talk about the notes that they had recently. Because I think they captured some very important points, some things that we would like to discuss. I think it's important, right? These things kind of flesh out some of the stuff that's been happening in the game recently. I really would like to get your thoughts on the matter. This is from their February 13th meeting, so they meet bi-weekly. They should be coming up relatively soon on another meeting. As usual, I didn't read the top up here. It says, in the spirit of ongoing transparency, the Players Council wants to share what they're able from the weekly meetings that transpire with Scopely representatives. All discussions between Boundless, Scopely, Player Council are under NDA, so topics are private and confidential. Okay, so there's a lot of details that they cannot necessarily say. Again, Scopely is allowing them to come into the back room and really see what's going on. And so they can't reveal those things. So it says they discussed a number of topics, old and new, as well as reviewing some of the most recent issues. As always, we want to try to stay on top of ongoing topics while also helping to address immediate concerns. Just that point alone is very important. We should take a second to talk about that. I'd love to hear your comment on the subject. There's stuff that's happening now that might need to be addressed. There's stuff that was happening yesterday. There's stuff that's been happening for a long time. And there's stuff that's really acute that's just affecting a few people. They want to hear about all that. They need to categorize it so they can talk about it. But they're not going to know unless you tell them, right? You're not going to know unless you tell them. It says the Player Council is gearing up for our next meeting with RJ. That's Ryan Jacobson in a few weeks. Ryan Jacobson is the director, I believe, of I don't know what you'd call it, director, I guess, for Marvel Strike Force. So he's in charge basically of the game as a whole. They're expecting to get some early info on long tail projects and some high level strategic perspective. So this is how one of the functions of the Player Voice. Okay. They're getting the information on, it says, long tail projects and some high level strategic perspective, meaning they have the long end game view in mind. So again, I'm an envoy. I'm seeing things probably at the 20-yard line, right? I'm seeing things probably at the 20-yard line. It's basically like, hey, this is getting ready to come out. Test these characters. How do they feel? Are they powerful? Do they work for the content? Do they interact well? I mean, you're right. The characters are pretty much done at that point. Everything's done. They're just giving them to us so we can show you guys and to kind of get a feel for, hey, Like, does it work right? But it's kind of, again, it's at like the 20-yard line. There's not much chance to change much at that point. They will, but we're getting it when it's almost ready to go. The player voice is seeing things way earlier than that. They're seeing some things in a skeleton form. They can talk about it again, how it's going to affect different people in the game. And that's what you want. You want somebody that has that says that long tail viewpoint, that high level strategic perspective. Now, people might say, well, the player voice doesn't do anything. And that's not true. That's not true. I dare somebody to prove me wrong on this. I've heard a lot of people say it, but I dare somebody to prove me wrong. See, people have said it. People have said it, but it's just like those cool kids. That's all it is. It's just like the supposed cool kids who are out there messing up the playground, damaging it for other people. They're not helping anybody. They're just out there causing problems. And there's individuals that have to come behind, clean up the mess, pick things up to make it nice and neat for other people. And that's what the player voice is doing. You can get involved in that as well. You don't have to necessarily be on the council. They have tons of breakout groups is the word I'm looking for, but that's not right. We'll just use that. So, for example, focus groups. So I'm in the new player focus group. I need to be a little more active over there, but you give information, once again, from the new player perspective that can be used by Scopely. Maybe you're really into Cosmic Crucible, Alliance War, something about the character releases, characters in general, events. They have groups for all that stuff. Jump in there, talk about it, say what you like, say what you didn't, so they can make things better in the future. Codes. We know this is a hot topic with QR codes flying in and the gift codes being sidelined for the moment. Safety concerns have been shared and heard. The MSF PX team, that's the player experience team, can utilize these in better ways than promo codes, which were originally intended to be new player gifts. These codes can be leveraged in many more ways to reward the community, but pros and cons and potential adjustments are being evaluated. They're confirming that these codes are not used to collect anyone's data, but to open the game, but to open the game and give reward. That's all they're being used for, nothing more. Me, QR codes in general, as some people probably echo, make me a little bit nervous, right? QR codes make me a little bit nervous. I don't want to be clicking on stuff and I don't know who sent it. It's just in today's world, it's just difficult to stomach sometimes. New playtest. Player Council has been participating in more play testing in recent weeks, and we're gearing up for a test and feedback on some new things coming to the game. That's good. So again, here's a bonus. If you get involved, if you want to be a part of the player voice, get on the council, you get to test some stuff early. Nothing wrong with that. We're happy that people get to do that. And it's good because once again, you have different styles of people looking at the content. Okay, so again, envoys, they get to look at the content, but they're usually trying to produce content, right? They're trying to produce content for social media. So they're looking at it from a certain direction. Player voice, they're looking at it from a different direction. We've seen some videos. We've seen some videos from envoys and whatnot. So you know that if I get to see the characters early, they usually give them to me in one or two ways. One, completely maxed out. So you get to see it completely maxed out. So in the case, let's say for Absolute A-Force and the Liberty team, you get to see them completely maxed out. You know what the full scale is. So if they go against each other, you know what that's going to look like at maximum power. It might look different if your characters are not that strong. So sometimes they give them to us that mirror our own account. And that way we can see things a little different. So again, the player voice is probably doing the same thing. They're probably getting the information, looking at it from the maxed out perspective, looking at it from their account, so they know with each individual play style, how that's going to affect the game. So them being involved in the play testing and giving feedback is great. That's why, again, if you have concerns or something like that in the game, they are a good source to go to. Let's continue. Team Orbs and Liberty. So if you look at the War Machine and Captain Falcon costume orbs, you can see that there are some clues showing with them playing with the release method of this team. The delay in the team orb being released, how that's timed with Peggy's Red Star orb boosted rates, it shows that they're continuing to try to shake things up. Obviously, the Peggy orb offers snafu through this for a bit of a loop, but the council certainly wants to ensure an amicable solution was arrived at for the bugged offer for all involved. So how do you feel about the release orbs in general? Right? The team orbs at Liberty, or I think that a lot of time we're sleeping on these orbs. Orbs in Marvel Strike Force, I get it. They leave a bad taste in people's mouth because they're random, they're RNG, they're the random part of the game. So it kind of feels bad when we're talking about, well, this is the release method or something like that. The thing is, these orbs have been good, man. I mean, in my opinion, they've been good. Let me take a look here. I have a picture or two. We'll switch gears real quick. Let's take a peek at some of these orbs. So first up, we're going to look at this one. This is the Path to Falcon orb. Okay. So we see the release rate there. Most of the time you're getting one. Sometimes you're going to get two. That's just what it is. In a small case, you'll get three. And in a really small, 0.5% of the time, you're going to get 100. In this case, Falcon Joaquin orbs. For the new players, you got Captain Sam Wilson. You got War Machine. A lot of us are saying, hey, man, I don't need that stuff. But hey, this is for everybody. So this gets newer players a strong 2 characters up and running faster. Now, I don't know about you. I'd like to hear what you say about this. I don't know about you. But through the life cycle of these orbs, before the orb leaves, before my character is maxed out, right? Before I have a 7-star of any character, I believe I'm going to start keeping track, but I believe I've hit a jackpot. I've got a 100 at some point before they leave on every character. Now, it might not be for release, right? That's when it's shiny and new. You hit that 100 before you get the release, right? Boom. You're feeling good. And it might not be as noticeable as we carry on, but it's still a really good thing. Because 100, sometimes it happens twice. Like it happened twice for my Hercules. So even when he becomes free to play farmable, that's 200 shards I don't have to farm as a free to play or cheap to play player, right? So I know it's not always shiny, sparkling, and new on the front end, but it does help with the overall farmability, especially on the back end. And I don't know about they were talking about like a pity system. So I haven't been able to get details, but in my opinion, I think this is where the pity system is. People have been saying that it's in the core orbs, but I think it has to do with these path to orbs. That's what I think. I haven't been able to get confirmation because you get a big drop. So I would like to know what you think. You can let me know in the comments. I would like to know what you think. I would like to know if you've been paying attention to the drops overall. I think it's good, man. Overall, I think that's where the pity system is. Maybe there's another way to do it, but through the life cycle of the orb, I think it's worked out. I think it's worked out. I want to switch gears once again. We got one more orb to look at. Share my screen. The other orb is the Brave New World orb. So we had the last one for the War Machine costume, and we have this one for Captain America, Sam Wilson. We have it for his costume. What's the significance with this orb? Just by opening it, you get 25 Falcon Joaquin shards. So it's part of his unlock method. It's a quarter of his unlock method. And the same thing was true with the War Machine one. Things got messed up, or excuse me, yeah, same was true with the War Machine one. They gave you some Peggy Carter. Things got messed up. I know with the offer and stuff like that, things got messed up with her release. I think she was the free to play character, I think, anyway. I'm not sure. So we all benefit, I think, at the end in some way. but they're doing different things to make sure you get the characters. So there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. There's people that are naysayers, especially you need to be careful of people who are talking who are not free to play players. They don't understand, right? They're telling you that the game is being worse for you, but they don't know. They have no idea. They're not playing in that arena. I have yet for it to take more than, I think, 28 days was the count that we had for Omega Sentinel. That was the longest it took me to unlock a character. So that's a little less than, well, if you're talking about February, that's 1 month. If you're talking about February, that's 1 month. So this whole thing about having, 2 months and 3 months and you didn't get the character, that's not happening. If it is, I would like to hear about it. I'd like to know about it. But it has not happened to me since this started. And this started way back with the Annihilators. We're almost, I don't know how old the Annihilators are. But it's been a minute. It's been a minute. So that's the thing. We have to cut through some of the nonsense and the noise. There's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of crybabies out there that all they do is whine and complain, but they're not helping the situation. You can't talk about something that you're not experiencing, especially if you're not going to listen to the people who are actually there. If you're not going to listen to the people that are actually there, then you're just making stuff up. Now, I'm not imputing bad motives. I'm not saying people are lying, but it's popular to say negative things about the game and not actually have any evidence. It's popular to do that. It doesn't help. That when that happens, the wrong stuff gets fixed, right? If we're fixing problems that aren't actually problems, then we're wasting our time, we're wasting our energy, and we're wasting our resources. We don't want to do that. So if there are actual problems with the game, we want to make sure that we're working on those things. And I think that these orbs, they could be adjusted, but I don't think that they're as bad as people say. Not even close, to be honest. Curious to hear your thoughts on that matter. Monthly item. Well, I'll have to switch to the other one. Do I have that? Here we go. Maybe. Because it so far to the bottom, I can't get it up there to the top for you to be able to see it. Monthly item. So this is something we definitely want to keep an eye on. I've heard some rumblings about this. This is something we want to keep an eye on. Monthly item. A number of people have reached out and otherwise expressed their difficulties in getting the monthly item in the last event. We will continue to try and alert to challenge and scoring early, but this should not be read into as a change of expectations for what an engaged player is or shifting of the goalposts. I think I'm trying to remember. I think that I can't remember if I was short last month or not. I know there was probably about 2 months ago, it got really close. And last month, maybe because of some of the inputs, maybe I missed the last couple of things. I got to be honest, I don't always pay attention. I pay attention to whether or not I got all the character shards because I'm trying to unlock the character, right? I'm a free-to-play player. So as long as I get the character pieces, the character shards, I'm usually okay. I don't always pay attention to whether I finish the entirety of the month-long milestone. So what was your experience? Did you miss out? Did you make it to the end? Did you not make it to the end? Keep an eye out, especially I guess for the next one's coming up. And then let me know, what do you think? What's the goal? Do you want to finish the whole thing? I mean, everybody wants to finish the whole thing, but what's more important? Getting through the whole thing or getting the character shards? Or is there some other solution that you could come up with? I know at the end, usually there are fully crafted gear pieces. That helps a ton. Maybe it's not on that character that's coming out. Maybe it's on a character to come. We don't always recognize that. They usually they usually in some form of the events are giving you gear that's going to help you with the next team that's coming. We don't always notice that, but they're giving you gear to help with the next team that's coming in some way, shape, or form. Not all the characters, but that's one of the reasons why new character comes out and you just take that slider and slide it all the way up and unlock them. Don't think twice about it because they preload some of that gear. Valentine Event Store. The duration of the store was in line with previous event stores that are not extended. But the Awakened Abilities feature didn't seem to be terribly attainable without a ton of coring. Several suggestions discussed to avoid this in the future and highlighting the perception of this. Changes to the store weren't an option, but the Awakened Abilities have come through other means. So I will agree. Given the duration of the store, there wasn't enough time for you to max out the Awakened Abilities. I think we all experienced that. Unless you're going to do a bunch of coring, and I don't know if, I really wasn't in, you're not going to use all your power cores for that. I'm not. Different type of people might do something different. I'm not. But it looks like they moved them to a couple of other stores. We saw some in the War store, some of the Raid store. So we're still making progress if we bought a couple. But I don't know. What do you think about I think in general, the event stores are good. Maybe that one didn't lead up to our expectations, but in general, the event stores are good. If you want them to change, we should definitely have a deeper conversation about that because there's probably ways they could be improved upon. Stores. We've been beating the drum for store improvements and concerns for currency for a while now, and there are plans in the works. Though our flags have seen some Awakened Abilities added to the War store, and we continue to encourage more availability, initial share of ideas shows some promise. So I think that's good overall, right? If they're going to change the stores, it says that they're working on it. It says that they're working on it. They can't be bad. There's nothing wrong with that. Keep it coming. DPC Diamonds. Discuss new character diamond releases and timeline for Red Star Diamonds coming to the store. Suggest trickling characters rather than waiting for large groups to become available. So people need stuff to spend it on. I can agree with that. All right. Here's probably, so we got Evan B, man, taking the lead there, the player voice. But here's probably the most important discussion. Let's see here. It's not changing. All right. I will take myself out. I can't get it to change. Technology is great when it's working. There we go. All right. I'm back, baby. War. This is an important point. War changes are being discussed, as well as some older suggestions that will require new tech to be developed, seemingly coming back as a possibility. We know that there are strong advocates on both sides of the recent war schedule change, and it may just be time to admit that a one-size-fits-all approach is not sustainable. The feedback shared with Scopely included that the full 5-team boosts seem to be less impactful and don't do enough to influence any matches. I think this is a fantastic point. This is a key point that we really need to come to grips with. A one-size-fits-all approach is not the answer. There are many different people that play this game. There are people that play the game differently. And so just saying it's like this, just because this person said it, just because this content creator said it, just because this Kraken said it, that doesn't mean that that's how the game actually works. So the change to war happened in response to what the community was saying. The community was saying that there's too much screen time in the game, right? Isn't that what we were saying? Isn't that what people were saying? People have been saying that there was too much screen time in the game. Okay. And so they reduced the screen time. One of the things that happened is they took away one of the alliance wars. Okay. They took away one of the alliance wars. I like war. My alliance, we like war. We've been trying to do our absolute best. We've been climbing the ranks, and you start to see what it's like when you get into some competitive high level wars. Now, again, we're not super duper strong. We're not a cracking alliance, but we fought people in the top 20 more than once, and it did not go well. The thing that you do notice right away is everybody's defense looks different. So when people say there's no theory crafting in the game, why aren't they playing Alliance War? Every character that comes out, every character affects Alliance War. I didn't say every team. Every character that comes out affects Alliance War. And from my understanding, there were bigger alliances that were getting burned out because with the 3 wars, every character that comes out affects the war, man. And you got to change and move stuff around. You're trying to find counters. And it's not always right an overwhelming counter. It's not always this big character like an Apocalypse or a Black Knight or Odin. Sometimes it's this other character that just maybe causes 5 extra losses overall over the course of the entire war. This one character put right here, it caused 5 extra losses, and those 5 extra losses cost you the war. Doesn't appear like it's a huge thing, but you had to be up on everything, every character, every team composition, and that's hard for people. That's hard. I like Alliance War, man. I like it, but it's hard for people that are trying to be the best at it. So if we want it back, that's fine. Just ask them about it. But there's a reason why they're trying this. And some of us, I mean, we shouldn't be too mad. I mean, how are we going to get mad that I'm getting the same stuff for doing less? I got 2 wars a week instead of 3, and I get the same stuff. I can use some of that time for something else. Nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that. So why would we be upset? If we're upset because we like the game mode and that's our favorite game mode and we look forward to going after it every week, I get that. But other people maybe feel different. That's fine. That's fine. I know it's tough on some of the content creators, but that's not what the game's about. And sometimes people forget that, right? So content creators, some of them are mad because if Crucible is moving to the weekend, right? They want the weekend off. Their job is to create content. They want the weekend off. So they don't want to create content on the weekend. But normal people who work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that's their time to do the stuff they want to do. And so that's when they're playing. I'm going to assume that that's what the metrics show. We'll find out. I'm going to assume that's what the metrics show. That if they're playing on the weekend, that's when normal people play. We'll find out, I guess. But it gets tough to see sometimes because, again, it's just like those cool kids, right? There's people that say, well, you're not, this guy's popular because he wears his pants like this. And you're like, what? Right? And as an adult, you know that has no bearing on what's real. But at the time, people feel that way. They think that's important. And just because this is when a vocal group likes to play the game, that doesn't mean that that's when everybody likes to play the game. Right? But you have to weigh in on that. If you want something different to happen, it's important that you weigh in on that and say, hey, I'd like it to be like this. So we know the path to Professor X. We know what that looks like. This is what we know so far. We have the Weekend Crucible, which has started a couple of times already. We got the raids coming up. And so, again, this is where the alliances got to work together. Everybody might not have the same opportunity to get the raid nodes necessary. So we probably need to talk about that as Alliance. You're going to hear people say, well, Scopely's fault. It's not, bro. They're just making the game. They told you the rules. Work with your team within the rules. That's how real life works. Work with your team within the rules. So if that means that I do 10 nodes, so between the two things, if I do whatever I do, probably in my main raid. So in your main raid, like the Orcus raid for endgame players, you do all that you can there, and then you see, well, how many nodes do I have left to hit 10? If I got 4 left, then maybe I do 4 in the spotlight raid and I wait, so my lane partner can get theirs. But most of us probably will be able to get the majority, I'm hoping, through your main raid, then you pick up the slack on the other side. Newer players, right? I don't know where you're at. I know for us, we're starting Doom 1, and then I have a Greek raid going, and the Alliance is, because I started over, the Alliance is stronger than me. So I can't do nodes. I got to just send individual attacks. So I'll send one guy in there. If he doesn't get destroyed, then I leave the game or quit game. What's the word? You lose the match. You lose the match. The raid still counts, and you rinse and repeat until I can get strong enough so I can actually do some nodes. We got Starjammer Showcase coming. We'll see what rewards are there. Then there's some type of upcoming event. We'll know more when that happens. So is Professor X going to save the game? The reality is no, man, because it's about the community. It's about what people want to do. If people want to interact with the content, the game will continue. If you don't want to interact with the content, it won't. But again, I encourage everybody to ask different people. There are some very vocal members of the community. The mistake is people just listen to those individuals. I obviously have a different point of view. A lot of my, right, if we're talking about opinion-based content, the majority of my opinion-based content is different than what a lot of people say. Why? Because I feel different about it. And I know I'm not the only one. That's the thing. I know I'm not the only one. So a lot of times when people say, well, the community feels this way, or the community feels that way, well, they never asked me. They didn't ask me. And I'm not saying they have to, but if you're not talking to people who don't agree with you, then you're not getting all the information. You don't have to agree. If I say A, B, and C, you don't have to agree with that at all, but you should at least hear it, maybe try to understand it, maybe ask questions. I try to ask questions, understand your point of view. But if you're not listening to what other people are saying, then some of that, and people don't like this, but some of that's part of the reason why the game's in the state that it's in, because we were listening to people who, right, if a person plays the game for their job, everybody doesn't play the game for their job. I like playing this game, but it's not paying my bills. This is not my career. Okay. So I am going to have a different thought about how things should work. That's going to be different than people that are super hardcore players or people that play the game for their job. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but you have to understand that there's a lot more people over here than over here, right? They just might not be saying anything because they're at work. So you have to reach out and talk to those individuals and find out what's best for them, find out what's best for the game. I am looking forward to Professor X. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I finally got Odin like yesterday. So I got a baby Odin running around. But we'll see. We'll see. So player voice, Discord's in the description. My Discord's in the description. Go to the main Marvel Strike Force Discord, talk about the game, talk about what you need. I think the game can improve. It needs to be better. It can be better, but it's only going to be better if people talk about what they need. That way things can be fixed. Stuff can be better. You guys take care of yourselves and your family. Peace out.